Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Females Thriving Over 30 podcast. Today is the first year of the Fire Horse. Happy Chinese New Year, everybody!
I'm so glad that we mentioned this before we started the recording. So we got on the call ready, and Sarah's like, "Year of the horse," and I was like, "I'm just not with it," and I was like, "What? What?" So yeah, because we've been talking about this, about the changes that come with
Exactly.
the new year.
We talked
Yeah,
about it in the previous
exciting.
episode. And obviously that is
Yeah.
something that I have, like, the Chinese New Year is something, like, the first day at least is something that I have always type of celebrated in terms of like the
hmm
traditions and stuff since
Yeah.
I've lived in Hong Kong when I was
Yeah.
in my
hmm
20s.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm. And this year felt like I needed to do all of the rituals, because last year was a hard year. You all know it. Like,
Yes.
for both of us,
Yeah.
we all had like things that we wish never happened, like another things that
hmm
happened that,
hmm
okay, well, it's making us
Yeah.
stronger, right? But,
hmm
last year was the year of the snake. We kind of like shed now that extra layer
hmm
of skin, and we are ready now for the year of the fire horse to just like,
hmm
you know, go for it, try new things, get away from like things that don't serve us and things that we have been actually
hmm
working towards anyway. So this is the
hmm
year. So I did all of the different rituals yesterday. I
So
cleaned.
tell us.
Huh?
I don't know. Yeah, tell us what
Yeah.
because I haven't done anything. So I can catch up. Tell me
Okay.
what I need to do.
So yesterday I cleaned the door of my house, the entry door of my house, in and out.
Uh-huh.
First with a bowl of water and white vinegar, just to kind of like cleanse kind of like any
Mhm.
energy that is like stuck in there, any past energy, anything that we don't want.
Mhm.
And then I cleaned it again with like warm water and cinnamon to attract
Ah. Yeah.
abundance and prosperity into my
Okay.
house in this new year of the horse. And today, didn't wash my hair because you're not supposed to wash your hair. You're not supposed to clean the house, sweep the house, or anything.
I've already failed. I'll go put my head in some mud or something.
Yeah, because all of that is kind of like symbolizing like stripping away the lack that you're coming in with a new year.
Right.
I suppose like
Okay.
on the first day, you're not supposed to wash your hair, clean the house, sweep, or anything, take out the trash.
Okay, I didn't do that though.
You're not supposed to cut anything with knives or scissors because it's again cutting out the lack and everything.
Not even a sandwich.
Nothing.
I've had a bad start to this.
It's okay.
Wash my hair, cut a
It's okay.
sandwich.
It's okay. And then I was like, oh, good that I had that in my menu, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
preparing myself
Yeah.
for the TEDx, and I'm like, I need to look good, so I'm just
Yes.
like eating healthy. So on
Uh-huh.
Sunday, I had prepared like a bunch of my dinner for the week. I was
Mhm.
like, I'm just gonna have white fish with broccoli, like very clean stuff.
Mhm.
And yesterday I was reading. I just pop up like a thing like what are the good things that usually you eat on Chinese New Year? It's like fish to bring abundance. I was like, awesome!
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Abundance, come to me. I am very abundant this year. Lack, come to me. I need it
You're
this
gonna
year.
have to share some abundance with me because I've screwed up this beginning.
I will. Don't worry. I always share. I do not gatekeep, and I do not keep things for myself. So I will share. Don't worry. That means we're gonna be able to get a podcast studio next.
Yes, yeah, because we're not gonna get it through my preparations for the New Year,
So yeah, this has been my day today. Like really good. Also, like positive thoughts. Try to speak um
Mhm,
good words into the world. Don't get angry. Those type of things. Kind of like
mhm,
just get into the new year with like the best intentions possible. And obviously we're
mhm.
wearing red. That's one of the lucky colors.
Ah,
So I'm wearing red. I wore red as well at our New Year's, not
mm,
the
yeah, yeah.
Lunar New Year. I'm
Mhm.
just trying to just, get all the luck that I can to see if this year is better than
Yes,
last year because we need it.
yes. Yes. You deserve it. I hope all these things work. I just hope they don't work against me.
No, it's fine. I'm pretty sure like if you didn't know about it, it doesn't count. It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
count.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully it'll be okay. But it's half term for me, so I've gotten a good
Yeah.
excuse because I'm doing too much to have even acknowledged what day of the week it
Yeah.
was. I thought it was Tuesday yesterday,
Yeah, I
so
mean, we almost didn't have Jasmine today in the podcast because
yeah. I was laid in bed. I was laid in my bed. I was like, oh, I was like, okay, got through it. We've got through the day,
What did you do
and
today
now what am I
then
gonna do?
with Mila?
Not a huge amount, just loads. It's just juggling, isn't it? Like multiple things. Um, Played lots of different games, went on a
Nice.
walk, but then I had to do some work. So then it's finding entertainment. I had to get some work
Mhm.
done. So a bit of
Yeah.
everything. And then I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast, but I am in the process of selling and buying a house. So
Mm,
things are happening with that all of the time. It's such a long
mhm.
painful process.
Yeah.
So just constantly getting contacted about that or things I need to fill out or
Mhm.
things like that. So it's just been one of those days where there's been a million and one things, and you're just like, okay, this is it for the day. I'm done with the day. And then I was like, I'm not. I'm ready. I've still got a bit left in me for the podcast.
Have things changed? Because like I have a one of my girls at work. She's also going through the process of buying a house, and she was just going through like some of the documents that she has to fill in and that she's getting and all of that. And I was like, oh, I didn't remember. I mean, I'm pretty sure we went through all of this, but I didn't remember the amount of paperwork. Do you remember from the first time when you bought your current house to now if it's exactly the same or things have changed?
Not really, but I think it's just like anything, isn't it? There's this like, it was my first house that I bought, the house I'm
Yeah.
in now. So I feel like there's a like naivety to it,
Mm.
like a you just like I don't know, you just don't think
Yeah.
that deeply about things,
Yeah.
and you can't. It's like almost like you don't know the complexity, and you don't know the things that can go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
when you buy your first house, you don't think about all the things that can go
Mm.
wrong and all of the.
Yeah.
So you just kind of do what they tell you to do when they tell you to do it, and there's so much excitement
Yes.
surrounding it that I think you probably doesn't feel like that much work to do it all.
Mm.
Whereas obviously when you're selling and buying at the same time, there's two separate processes going on where you're having to
Of
do different
course.
things. They're dealt with completely
Yeah.
separately. So you're having to do different things. Some things are almost like repetitive.
Mhm.
And then there's that you end up in a chain. I think it's made me realise how fortunate we were with our house we bought as first time buyers because they have no onward chain and we were
Mhm.
first time buyers and it was just
Yeah.
like easy. It didn't even cross my mind that they might pull out or anything. I never didn't even think about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Whereas now it's like you're managing
Yeah, which
so
for
there's like
me
so many different processes and trying to coordinate because like
yeah.
obviously you're worried about if something happens with one or the other, how that
Mhm.
impacts the other side as well. So yeah,
That is crazy. The chains are
it's
crazy because they can get, like, super
yeah.
long.
Yeah, I was determined by a no one would chain house because I just didn't want to be in a chain.
Yeah.
But then the house that we found that we ended up really liking and wanting to move into has got a chain. So it's like you can choose, like
Yeah.
at that point, what do
Yeah.
you choose, right?
Mhm.
So fingers crossed,
Yeah,
everything
I'm
will
pretty
just
sure it's
go
gonna
as it should.
it's gonna go
Yeah,
well
yeah.
and it's gonna finish soon.
I plugged my phone in. Oh, here we go. I was like, I plugged my laptop in to charge, and for some reason it's not charging. But that's because you know the bit in the middle where they connect
Ah,
to like the
I know.
box.
It disconnected.
They're they're detached. So this sums up my day, everybody. Right, there we go.
I know. So, when you listen to this episode, I will already be in Hamburg, ready for my TEDx.
She's gonna smash it.
Oh, today
She's gonna smash
yeah,
it.
I received the trousers that I
Oh
ordered.
yes. Oh yeah. Yes.
I'm too short for these things. It
Yeah.
doesn't look good. It's just so hard to find things for petite
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I think you know what, those types of trousers are just hard full stop because
Yeah.
I have to buy tall leg because
Mhm.
I'm not that tall, but I have long legs and a small
Yeah.
body. But then I can never find them to cover my heels. So like, you know, just trousers that are actually if they're wide leg, I feel like they need to go far enough down, whereas they end on me like on my ankles and it doesn't
Yeah,
look right. And then you have the opposite problem. It's just they're very difficult trousers.
they are. And I was, like I had that idea in my head how I wanted to look. And I
Yeah,
decided, you know what? I'm just going to go with what I feel comfortable in and that looks good. I'm
yeah,
just going to go with that
yeah,
blouse, with the
yeah,
jeans, like really
yeah,
thigh sandals.
yeah, yeah. I think it looks really nice, and it's a good blend of like smart but also casual.
Mhm.
And I said to you, didn't I? It's like almost like not conforming to the suit,
Yeah, yeah, true.
and that fits in with your talk. Like your talk is about, you know, not feeling like you have to be a part of whatever society says.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it fits.
it does fit. It does fit. So,
And the skinny jeans fit with being a millennial, of
of
course.
course, yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna know you're in your 30s when they see you,
Yes.
in the best way, of course.
Yeah. And you know where they're from? The millennial store, Hollister.
Yeah, oh, there we go. There we go. You're just repping.
Yeah.
Everyone, you need to be relatable to your audience, and when you come on, they're all about, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Okay, so we have our guest in the lobby already. So today we are
Yeah.
going to be talking about setting boundaries, about trying to avoid burnout, and to redefine success after a major life change event. So, without further ado, we're going to let in our guest. We have today in the podcast Emily Forbes. We had asked this season if someone felt related to any of the topics that we wanted to talk about during season 6, and Emily wrote to us and said, like, yes, girls, I have something that I wanted to talk to you about. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about setting boundaries, preventing burnout, and redefining success after a major life change event. So, welcome to the podcast, Emily. How are you?
Hello, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm good, thank you very much.
I feel like I need to get myself my glasses so we can all match, you know? I think I'm going to go get them. Okay. We're all matching now. Perfect. So, for our listeners that don't know you, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. So I'm Emily Forbes. I'm a coach and I'm the author of my first book called Too Hard to Swallow, which I published last year. And in it, it's really my story of managing with chronic illness and also burnout and the lessons I learned through that really, and how I could then use that to help other people. So the book is a part memoir, so it talks to you about my story. And then it's also a part self-help book. So really it's about trying to put into practice some of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way, to really give people a bit of a framework to use themselves if they're going through stress, overwhelm, burnout, or just want to put some new boundaries in place because they've had a big life change or a transition, for example.
Like your own story and how it inspired the book and the memoir side of it. So can you tell us a bit more about your story?
Yeah, sure. So I live with something called dysphagia, which is a swallowing issue, and esophageal dysmotility, which essentially means that the way that my esophagus and muscles are contracting won't pull food through properly. But I wasn't born with this and I haven't always had it. So I'd always had some digestive issues like acid reflux, and I was born allergic to dairy and with a lactose intolerance. But from about 2018, 2019, I really started noticing that some of my symptoms around coughing, spluttering, swallowing problems were getting worse. And then in 2020, they really got to a point where I couldn't swallow any solid food whatsoever. And at first, obviously, you go to see lots of different specialists and different doctors, and I've had a number of surgeries. But alongside that, I was also trying to look into the sort of mind-body connection and the connection with stress, with the immune system, with the nervous system, the endocrine system, etc. And I sort of worked out for myself that this chronic illness that had come on and this, inability for certain things in my body to to work properly anymore was probably as a result of lots of layers of different things. It wasn't just a physical illness. It was also, I'd gone through some really distressing grief and bereavement. I was going through a divorce at the time. I had to move house. So on top of, crippling chronic illness that was debilitating in itself, I also had other layers of loss and grief that I needed to work through. So I thought if I could sort of turn all of that trauma and adversity into something a bit more positive, I had to really look at my whole life blueprint again and redesign it from scratch, to be honest. I had to give up my full-time CEO role at the council because physically I didn't have the capacity and the energy to deliver that anymore, even though mentally I'm still perfectly capable, intelligent, ambitious, but capacity-wise, it didn't match up. And that's where I suppose, noticed this difference around capacity and capability and what people think burnout is. And I write about this in my book because it's about the demands on you over time outweighing the capacity and the resources that you have. It's not actually a capability issue, it's definitely a capacity issue. And people often feel that they're not enough, or they feel worthless, or they feel like it's their fault, they feel like a failure. And I've certainly recognised a lot of those emotions and feelings because it's a really hard place to be when something is so out of your control. And we almost have to go all the way back to the beginning and undo some of our programming and some of that, societal and environmental systemic issues that cause the burnout in the first place. And that's what I try and do in my book. I try and unpick the mind-body connection, the issue around chronic illness for me, which was probably one of the big triggers, yes, but then also looking at it in much more detail as, burnout as a whole and how to try and recover from it and come through it and live differently because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I see myself a lot in some of the things that you just said. I do have a chronic illness as well with endometriosis. And I feel that when I started looking more deep inside how I can reduce my stress, how can I kind of changing a little bit the way that I was living my life, the change that it has made into me physically and the pain that I was just going through now is not as bad. But it's very interesting what you just said, right? Trying to break from those societal misconceptions that we have on what we need to do and how we need to do things and where we need to be at what we all need to be here at this point, otherwise you're failing and all of that, and how that pressure contributes to the stress that contributes to those chronic illnesses getting worse. So how did you get to that point? What made you realize, okay, I need to look more deep inside, and how do you set those type of boundaries?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think sometimes you have to get to rock bottom before you can then sort of pull yourself back out of it.
Absolutely.
I think for me, I'll be honest, I probably went through the burnout cycle twice. And in my book, I do talk about what I mean by that. And it's like you have the spark and you have the inner spark and the motivation, and you've got the drive and the purpose, and then you sort of get going with things and it ignites, and then you're burning, and then you take on more, and there's more load, more mental load, more stresses, more demands, whether that's family, relationship, work, whatever it might be, illness, so more demands on your body, and then you extinguish and the light goes out. So you're forced to rest it then, and you're forced to look at your recovery. But actually what I did is tried to jump back in again with the whole, the respark, the ignite, the burn, that cycle, which led me straight into another episode of extinguishing that flame and burnout again, because I hadn't changed the environment in which I was operating. So nothing had actually changed. All I'd done is repeated the same cycle. So I think for me, it was going through that cycle twice and thinking, okay, something has to change here. And, I often say, and as a coach, and a lot of people also will recognize the saying, if you're not changing it, then you're choosing it.
Yeah.
So you do have to sort of look at a bit of self-responsibility. Well, what choices am I making on a daily basis? Is this decision helping me, or is this decision hindering me? And I tried to sort of reframe things from a position of how can I put my well-being at the forefront?
Yeah.
And I think for women, that's really hard. It's hard for everyone, but, we've been taught to take on, the mother load, the childcare load, the parenting, the carenting, I call it, when you're looking after elderly parents and you're, squished in the center. You've then got chronic conditions yourself. You're then also trying to work the 60-hour weeks and, to be the sort of the CEO at work and the CEO of your life. And we've been conditioned to take on more and push harder and do more. It's inevitable that the system is going to break and crack, and, our bodies can't take it. So I think what I did is I sort of went back to some really sort of simple and really small things, because when you're going through something like, whether it's stress, chronic stress, overwhelm, and you've got all the tabs open and too many decisions to make and too much to do, you don't need something that's big and huge and hard work. You need something really small. And I think the first thing I did was every single morning when I woke up, I would ask myself, how are you feeling today in your body? So I'd think, and just feel where maybe some sensations were, or what my pain level was like, or whatever, what symptoms were coming up, but not necessarily questioning them or focusing on, just recognizing. And then I'd say to myself, okay, and what do you need today? So what do you feel that your body really needs today? And sometimes that could be rest, deep rest. It could be sleep. It might be that actually you feel like you need a bit of enthusiasm and joy in your life, an injection of some fun or some laughter or some sociability, because I think burnout really isolates you. It makes your world so much smaller while you're trying to cope with everything. Yeah. So just trying to seek out those little glimmers of joy or connection in your day can be really helpful. And I think at the beginning, when you have a big crash and a big burnout, it's really getting the basics right. And by that, I mean, nourishment, hydration, sleep, routine, movement if you can. I also have a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, so I do have quite painful muscles and joints. But even a small amount, a stretch, a morning stretch when you wake up can be enough to just get your body moving. And I think, really start really small and then use the 1% rule and just build something up. So, just a little bit more each week or a little bit more each month. And I think giving yourself permission to have time off, whether that's time off work, whether that's time off study, whether that's time off, being a full-time parent, and asking for some help. It's hard. And, that was one of my most difficult things, was asking for help, because I'd always been, the type A achiever, the breadwinner, the one that, did everything. And it can feel like it's a personal defeat and a personal failure when you have to say, I can't cope with this. But I recently wrote a piece on LinkedIn that we have to reframe that. It's not about not coping. You are capable, but you don't have capacity. So how can you increase your capacity to cope? And that might mean getting in some extra help. And it might mean, going to see a doctor and actually getting some medication to support you. And I've done that too. So, there's no stigma around that either. It's about looking at how can you increase your bandwidth to be able to cope with the demands that are being placed on you in life.
I think something you mentioned there was about having time where you're having social time, or even just time for yourself, and those kind of things. Something I know personally that I can find hard sometimes, especially if I have a lot on my plate at that moment, is actually switching off and being present and not worrying about all the other things that I have going on in my head, like work or whatever it is I need to get done, whatever's going on in life. do you have any tips for how you can ensure that when you are giving yourself that time, that you don't try and rest or try and be in a social situation but be distracted by your thoughts? Like, how can you be more present and actually get what you need out of those times?
I think there is a lot to be said for mindfulness and meditation practices, which at first, if you've got a very busy mind, sometimes don't help. People say, well, I can't lie there and listen to an audio track. So I think the first thing that I would suggest, which I do whenever I'm coaching anyone with overwhelm or burnout, is to get it out of your head and onto paper. So if you make the invisible, all that invisible stuff that's going around your head, if you actually make it visible and even just dump it onto a list, or in a journal. Some people find that like voice noting it into their phone just so that it's out. So you're getting it out of the brain and you're getting it sort of, it's taking up less room, because in order to make space for that recovery and make space for rest, and make space for being able to meditate or get into a more, sort of parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest mode, we've got to make room for that. And the only way we can make room for that is by either sort of taking everything that we've got out of our brain and getting it onto a piece of paper so we can sort of put it to a side for a bit. It might be actively delegating things that we need to do. So saying, actually, I know I've got these few tasks, but if I could ask so-and-so to do those tasks, that'll free me up to give myself some more time. It might be deferring things. So instead of putting pressure on yourself, I should have made the dinner by this time and I should have done the household chores at this, give yourself a break. Yeah, it's not that hard to move things slightly. Stop putting pressure on yourself to keep pushing and keep performing, because actually you need to prioritize you and your rest. And you can't do that unless you make space for it. And the other thing is diarizing it, because sometimes people find that if it's not on the calendar, it won't happen. So actually, if you're going to defer some tasks or delegate some tasks, and you're going to make some time for you, put it in your schedule that time is going to be for me. And then, do a sort of a bit of a thought or brain or worry dump of everything that's going on in your mind, and then set that schedule and stick to it and give yourself, even if it's 20 minutes, to sit down with maybe a book and a cup of tea or a magazine, or, what I like to think of as bloom scrolling instead of doom scrolling. Because actually, if you're looking on Instagram for things that lift you up, give you purpose, if you're reading some interesting stories or maybe connecting with other people, like-minded people in a community, that can be really good for your mental health and for your rest, because not all rest has to be sleeping. It can be, you can have creative rest, reading, writing, painting, listening to music. You can have spiritual rest. It might be thinking about values and purpose, which actually might give you that rest away from the cognitive bit about to-do lists and tasks. And so you can find different ways, I think, to find that rest. Yeah.
Yeah, we've spoken in the podcast before about try not to feel guilty when, we're not doing what we used to do, right? We started talking about it when I said after my endometriosis, after the surgeries, I have not been training the way that I used to train before. And I used to literally beat myself up, why can I not go to the gym? And the only thing that was doing that is getting me into that cycle of making me feel worse for it. And I think creating that extra stress. And since I started saying you know what, this week has been super stressful because I've been traveling or whatever. Next week, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. But then I do that, I wake up in the morning, like you said, and I say okay, how am I feeling? Do I feel like I have the strength to get out and just to go to the gym, or do I need to rest a little bit longer? And I'm not feeling bad about it anymore. Whether probably 6 months ago, I would be in bed, kind of I cannot go to the gym, but feeling really bad about it. And obviously, I think that kind of contributes to making you feel even worse physically than you are actually feeling, right?
Yeah, because we've all been brought up in this idea that productivity is key and, outcomes and goals and delivery. But actually listening to your body, tuning in to what you need, giving yourself grace and gentleness and self-compassion will be more productive in the end, because actually you're setting yourself up for a better day.
Yeah.
And I think, capacity, we can think about bandwidth, but in lots of different ways. I always talk about something called whole wellness in my book. So it's not just your physical energy and capacity, but it's your emotional energy, your emotional resilience as well. It's your mental, so your cognitive bandwidth and what you can take on. It's also your spiritual well-being. So, how you feel connected to your purpose or values or identity, because that's a big one with burnout, because, shifting identities, and we're always so caught up societally in our role and our identity matching our work role rather than who we are as human beings.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. And also our social and environmental well-being. And, that's about ensuring that we've got the right environment in which to thrive. So, something as simple as if you really don't feel comfortable in your own home and you haven't got, nice warm textiles or, a nice comfortable place to sit and rest and relax, then your nervous system is going to be on edge and wired. So actually, can you create a small space at home that's a little cocoon just for you, where you can have 10 minutes of, even if it's of just breathing time or thinking time or resting time, where your body knows this is my time to feel good, to feel safe, to feel loved, and to feel like it's okay to be here. We're the only ones that give ourselves permission to do that. We might have been programmed societally to not, to think in a different way. But I think one of the big lessons I learned at the beginning was that no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And there's different ways to do that and methods and modalities. And it might be that you need some clinical support. You might need, to go and see a doctor. You might need some psychotherapy, whatever you need or works for you. But ultimately, you're in the driving seat of this, and you've got to try and put in place boundaries and put in place ways that you can take control in your life, whatever the context is. So, for example, I can't eat solid food. So for me to say that, one of my ambitions is to try and swallow solid food next week when my muscles won't physically contract, is not realistic at all. And it's out of my control completely. But what is in my control is, what soups I make next week, what vegetables I buy to make my soups, what bone broth I use to try and increase my vitamins and minerals. Those are all in my control. So it's about reframing things, what's within your control, and whatever isn't in your control, we've got to learn to let go of. And it's really hard because we want everything to be perfect and, we want to not fail and we want to not take risks. But actually, we have to let go because we can't control everything.
Yeah, I honestly feel like this, because like for anybody that doesn't know, we had to do like a last minute guest in because our guest from today had to cancel. And I really feel like it was like the universe bringing us Emily in, because I am going to do this TEDx about like breaking with societal norms. And we're talking now here as well about how society has made us get into this vicious circle of being stressed all the time, that I just feel like it's very serendipitous. I don't know.
I think a thing that you've just been mentioning as well about like yourself and prioritizing yourself and on all of these things, it's made me think about, I often feel a huge commitment to, so whether it's at work, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's something I've volunteered to do or mentioned to somebody that I'd help with, I feel this huge weight to not let people down, people around
Yeah.
me. So if I've committed to something, I feel like I have this weight around me to fulfill that. I would feel a lot of guilt. Say if I felt like I wasn't able to get a piece of work done for when I said that I would feel a huge sense of guilt around that and feel like I had no choice but to get it done, even if that was to the detriment of my own health. And I feel like that in a lot of a lot of different areas of life. So how can you give us some tips on how you make that shift? And like you've mentioned boundaries, what kind of things can you do not only to let other people know that you might need those boundaries and space for yourself, but also to actually make yourself feel okay with putting
With that,
yourself
yeah.
first?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because again, I think we're told to like always turn up, to not be absent. Even, even in school, you're taught that, aren't you? With attendance registers. And certainly millennials will, know the culture of you go to work even when you're sick. And it only really changed with COVID because obviously people were getting extremely ill and the virus was spreading so much. I think sometimes we can reframe that. So that feeling of responsibility and that feeling of, well, I have to be there, I have to do this, I'm going to, feel shameful or guilt if I don't. But actually, who is that responsibility to? Because if you're being responsible to yourself and to your own needs and to your own health, you would make a very different decision. So,
Yeah.
I think some of the questions that I put in the book and I ask myself are things like, if I do this, what will be the consequence? And if I don't do this, what would be the consequence? And actually, if you work through the worst case scenarios and the best case scenarios, you often find that the catastrophizing that's going on in your mind is very far away from the reality of how bad it would be. And also you can say things like to yourself, okay, so my energy is precious. We all have our own precious energy resources. So if I give this energy to that task, where am I taking the energy back? So try and think of it as, well, how am I topping my energy up then? Because then I haven't got enough energy to give to the second task tomorrow, or a child that needs me, or a friend that has had a breakup and I need to go and see, or, or whatever the other, like all of this mental load that I think women carry a lot more, the birthday parties and the gifts and the cards and the dates and the school uniforms and everything that has to be remembered. So just, I think, to do a bit of an energy check-in. Where's my energy feeling today? How much energy do I have? And where do I want to give that energy? Because that's, again, taking control of the situation. You're then choosing, I'm going to give this amount of energy to work, and I'm going to give this amount of energy to my home life, and I'm going to give this amount of energy to me because I need topping up. Otherwise, I can't be a great colleague. I can't be a great mum. I can't be a great friend. I can't be great to myself if I haven't got enough energy left for myself. So I think it is about reframing the way that we've learned and grown up, and it's about reprogramming ourselves. And some of, in coaching, there's something called neuro-linguistic programming, which again, it's essentially looking at the way that your neural pathways and you can rewire your brain through neuroplasticity. So you can actually, if you do something over and over again, it becomes a habit, and you can rewire that new habit, as we know, with habit creation into your brain. So I think I've rewired my brain to think, what's my energy level like? Have I got energy to give? Where am I giving my energy today? And what will the consequence of that be for me tomorrow or the next day? Or where can I recoup it, for example?
Mm. That's amazing. You know what? I've told Jasmine before, like, oh, we need to talk about neuroplasticity, but I didn't have like any idea on how we were going to put it anywhere in an episode. So it's great that you have just mentioned it because it's true, right? Like we are able to rewire our brains, and we just need to start thinking that it's okay to do something different to what we have been taught to do. That is not a failure. And that brings me to the question, how do we redefine success when we are going through these things that keep telling us, you failed, you failed, you failed, you should have done this, like you're now taking time for yourself, you shouldn't have done that. How do we redefine success and how we can show other people that there is other ways to succeed, that is not just following what society told us to do?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because sometimes you feel that then you're going against the grain. And also I think the approach has to be quite individual and quite idiosyncratic, because we're all in our different contexts with our different levels of physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, etc. I think in my book, I talk about developing your own authentic self signature. And by that, I mean what is unique to you, just like your handwriting, just like a fingerprint. I talk about it in 3 parts. The first is about finding your authentic self. So your values, your purpose, your connection, what lights you up, what works for you, and who you want to be. So thinking of the vision of the future, for example. And then the second is your stress signature. So knowing what your triggers are, knowing what your stresses are, knowing, how far you can push that window of tolerance before you flip over into that hyper aroused state. And then the third is knowing your wellness signature. So what works for you, for your well-being? Some people, it might be physically that they need movement every day, and without a morning walk or a morning run or some morning sunlight, they might not operate at their best. For other people, it might be they need 20 minutes of real peace and quiet and reflection time at the end of their day. So I think it's all about developing your own signature. Who are you at your core and at your center? Where are your stressors and your triggers? And what does a prescription for wellness really look like for you? And then what I like to do is write down a visualization of your perfect day, what it looks like, how you wake up, where you go, how you move about life, what you wear, what you smell like, what perfume you're wearing, everything. Get all the senses, because that really links back to this neuro-linguistic programming. If you can have a visual, auditory, what you can hear, kinesthetic, how you're moving, olfactory, which is what you can smell, and gustatory, which is what you can taste. They're called the VACOG, VAKOG. So all of your senses. And if you can have a visualization or have a sort of an idea of your best future self, what this really, vision looks like, feels like, tastes like, sounds like, you can keep coming back to that in your brain, and you can reprogram for that positivity. And you can use those kind of positive psychology interventions to actually move closer towards that vision of who you want to be. And that might be someone very different from who you used to be. And that's okay. Change is okay. People change, life changes, friendships change, relationships change. So obviously we're going to change as human beings in whatever context and environments we're in. And I think as long as you stay true to yourself and stay aligned to what your inner compass, your authentic self really wants, then I think that you can recover from burnout and create your own blueprint of how you can sort of move forward. Yeah.
I love it.
I definitely think this is something like being in your 30s as well, or over 30. I definitely think this is when we start to reconsider. I think it's the first time, it's definitely for me the first time in my life that I've really questioned my identity, in terms of like, you just think you are who you are, and then you realize that there's more to that, and you can be who you want to be, and that does change, and you can adapt to what feels right for you as well, which I think is really important. So if people want to read your book, find more out about you, find more about your book, or buy your book, where can they do that?
Yeah, thank you. So my book's called Too Hard to Swallow by me, Emily Forbes, and you can buy it on Amazon as well as on Balboa Press. I'm on Instagram as Wild Wellbeing Coaching, and also my website is wildwellbeing.uk, and it's wild with a Y because it means untamed, and I like to think that I'm not tamed by societal norms anymore.
I love that.
And also you can you can read my book. I've got a resources library full of tools that people can purchase, and I offer private one-to-one coaching as well. So get in touch if you want to.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, we're going to go there because, when you were saying about the signatures, I was like, oh, I love this. And then I was thinking, like, what is my wellness signature? And I'm like, I think it's watching Real Housewives. So like my fiance keeps telling me like, why are you watching that program? And I'm like, I was like, I don't know. It's kind of like comforts me somehow. I mean, I know that it's not like the super calm show, but it comforts me. And I'm just going to tell him next time he asks me, it's like, this is my wellness signature. So please.
It's escapism, isn't it? Like just any form of escapism, I feel like. And I definitely think there's things from when you were younger that you lose over time. Like for me, theatre was always like a huge escapism, going to watch theatre shows and stuff, and being involved in the theatre and stuff from a young age. And then I've lost that a lot as I've got older. So I think like anytime I dip my toe in things like that, it brings me back to maybe like a more peaceful version of myself, I guess. So I think sometimes we rediscover hobbies and things as we get older as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
But yes, thank you so much for joining us, Emily. It's been a pleasure. I feel like we've touched on so many like things here that are especially good for the beginning of this new season. And we were talking about we're going into Year of the Horse, Chinese New Year as well. So I feel like these are all really good things to be thinking about as we enter that new period as well. So. So yes, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Emily, for joining us, and we'll see you everybody on our next episode. Make sure that you are following us on Instagram as well at Females Thriving Over 30. Let us know if you want to be on the podcast or get in touch with anything you want to chat about through the podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.